Hello! Welcome, excuse me. Welcome to Professor Skye's Spam Channel, where I just finished eating some tacos from Taco Bell. And this is my spam channel, where I talk about anything that's not new music. And every once in a while, I try to do it once a month, it's been a bit, I talk about YouTubers that I think are important and worthy of study. So I'm going to be talking about MatPat and the Theory channels in this video. And you know, like, you need to understand the point of this whole series. You see, I truly believe that the place where the most interesting things that are being said, where the sort of future of intellectual discovery and discussion is on YouTube. That's my true belief. You know, I am a legitimate academic. I've studied 17th century philosophy and written my Ph.D. I am a doctor of philosophy, all that stuff, you know? But I don't think the future is in academic journals. I think it's here on YouTube. So what I'm trying to do with this channel, this spam channel and these episodes, is try to serve as a guide to future intellectuals who are trying to understand what was YouTube all about. How did it become this place of intellectual exchange? And what does that have to do with drinking Taco Bell? And what does that have to do with MatPat? And what does that have to do with my script for Pulp Fiction that I bought back in 1993? What does that have to do with my copy of Entertainment Weekly? You see, I just ate some Taco Bell. I just ate a chicken soft taco, one of my favorite things. I've been eating them for years and years and years and years. And Taco Bell is bad food. It's made, the quality of... Growing up, the joke was always that the meat in Taco Bell was worse than the meat that they served the Chihuahua who served as the spokesdog, you know? And we all know that Taco Bell's terrible, that it's fake Mexican food, that it's just bad American bastardization. But I'm going to provide a counter-narrative, which is that if it weren't for Taco Bell, I wouldn't be the worldly person that I am today. You see, growing up, I had no access to exotic cuisine. I just didn't. You know, my family didn't travel much. We didn't have many options at home. So I didn't eat Mexican food. I didn't know what a burrito was. I didn't know what a chimichanga was. I didn't know what a taco even really was. So when I was in high school, and all these commercials, you know, I was a real kid of the 90s, you know, Extreme, Taco Bell, 90s, all that stuff. I would go to Taco Bell, and that was my introduction to non-American cuisine. Now don't get mad at me. I know Taco Bell is bad. I know it's not a good representation of Mexican food. But it does introduce a lot of the concepts. It does introduce a lot of the flavors. Sour cream and tomatoes and ground beef and tortillas and hot sauce. All those things were introduced to me through Taco Bell. I eventually would go on to hate Taco Bell. I'd eventually go on to, you know, eat lengua in Mexico when I went to visit, you know. I'd eventually grow this amazing taste in food that developed while I went to France after high school. High school I ate Taco Bell. College I didn't. College I would never eat Taco Bell. To the point where even eating Taco Bell now just reminds me of being in high school. Let's talk about Pulp Fiction. You know, this movie, I bought the script in 1993 because I liked the movie so much. I love this movie so much because it gave me a view into something different. It gave me a view into what movies could be. Without Pulp Fiction, I would not have become the film scholar that I am. And I'm just going to say, you know, this movie, because Tarantino loved Jean-Luc Godard so much, it got me into renting Band Apart. It got me into understanding Godard. It got me into world cinema to the point where I loved world cinema so much that I turned around and hated on Tarantino for being a simple copier, a simple stylist. I had an Entertainment Weekly subscription from 1991 until 2023 when they shut down. Or 22. Intermittent, you know, there were a couple of years there where I didn't have a subscription. And this is what taught me about cultural criticism. It was in an article where somebody quoted Pauline Kael saying that she still thought that Jaws was better than Schindler's List, that I understood what it was to be a film critic, as well as the work of Owen Gleiberman and other critics in here. So I'm bringing all this as a way to contextualize who MatPat is. MatPat is a pulp taco. He is somebody who people learn how to think. He is a great communicator of learning how to analyze. Now, I say MatPat. That's a shorthand for the entire theory team. Because there's an entire team behind the lead person, who is MatPat, and he has a whole group of people who do editing and writing and all that. But I really think that he's so important because of this sort of cycle, the pulp taco cycle, where I came to hate Taco Bell. I came to hate Tarantino because they set me on a path where I would learn enough about the things that they are imitating that I would come to hate their imitation. If you're watching this video, it's probably because you used to like MatPat. If you like me, you probably have grown out of MatPat. You've probably grown out of theory. You probably think of it as babyish and stupid and way too internet. People. But don't get it twisted. If you know who MatPat is and you've ever watched one of his videos in your youth, you owe a lot of your intellectual development to his great work, to their great work. And let's just think about it. Let's imagine that you know a 12-year-old kid and you're trying to show them stuff on the internet. You can't go straight to Ph.D. signifier. You can't go straight to ContraPoints. They're not ready for that. You need to build them up to that. You can't even go to Lindsay Ellis. Even that's too developed. So what do they have for real analysis? What do they have? What is being presented to them? What's being presented to them is Mr. Beast, gotta get the money, yo. Or Logan Paul, Jake Paul, gotta get the money, yo. An entire worldview that is based exclusively on the concept of the accrual of wealth and the display of said wealth either through charity or through luxury. When we're thinking about what makes MatPat so great, don't think about it as, is it as good as ContraPoints? No, it's not H-Bomber Guy. No, okay, there's a bunch of other YouTubers I should be doing this video about who are much better than MatPat. But when we understand the role that he plays, is he is being Taco Bell for criticism, for analysis. He is getting people in the door to learn what a chalupa is. So maybe you reject, and it's funny because the way I learned about MatPat is the way I learned about the internet. I was in a long-term relationship, and the woman I was with, her daughter was very into YouTube. And her daughter taught me all about what was interesting about YouTube. I had no idea. And the very first thing she showed me, the very first thing, well, it might have been JonTron. I'm not going to do any videos about how great JonTron is. But maybe the second video, if not the first video, was the game theory. And the thing that was interesting was, she was in middle school at the time, and I understood what kind of person she was. I could see what kind of person she would become. She's now I think a junior in college, doing really well, honor roll, all that stuff, rocket ship to the moon, all that great stuff. But at the time, I understood what this channel was. And I predicted that she would not love MatPat forever. And within 2 years, she had already said that MatPat was too phony, his voice was too lame, his work was too predictable, it's too quick cut. And that's great. That means that MatPat did MatPat's job. MatPat did the taco fiction thing. And much like Taco Bell, much like Quentin Tarantino, not much like Taco Bell, they are very good videos. They are really well made. But obviously, they are not at that higher level. So I wanted to do this video about Lindsay Ellis, but I'm not even ready to talk about how great Lindsay Ellis is, so just give me time on that, I'm working on my Mount Rushmore of YouTubers. I've only got 3 people so far. So what I want to do briefly, if you're not familiar, well, you're not familiar with MatPat. I'm giving this as a guide to you, you future intellectuals. Most people who, I would imagine, many people who are intelligent and using YouTube for analysis and learning have had some, if not a lot, of experience with MatPat. What makes MatPat and the Theory channel so varied is they have 3 main channels: game theory, film theory, and food theory. And I think that all 3 of them represent different things that are done well by MatPat. I hate saying MatPat. So game theory, that's their first one. Like most things on YouTube that are interesting, starts with games and then evolves into something better or evolves into something much, much worse, such as the election of the 45th president. But if we just take as one example, okay, let's take as an example that first video that I saw. The first video that I saw was Link's hookshot. So Link is a character from a video game series called Legend of Zelda, a game series I love. And it's an analysis of this tool, which is this kind of grappling hook that Link uses. And in this video, it's totally silly, it's totally useless, it's totally pointless. And I understand what problems people have with MatPat, because he talks in this crazy radio voice, and that's what she said to me. That's what she said to me when she gave up on MatPat. It's like, that's not real speech. That's not true. MatPat is not true. MatPat does not speak with truth, except for the weird video talking about the suicide of one of their workers, which is an amazing moment, which I'm not going to get into now. And it could be faulted for being silly, because who cares about video game physics? Who cares? Obviously, anything that happens in Legend of Zelda couldn't happen in real life. But sneakily, what does MatPat do? What does game theory do? Gives you a whole lesson on physics, on Newtonian physics, on force, on mass, on acceleration, on mathematical volumes. I did terribly in high school in math. I did terribly in science. I didn't even take science. I took remedial science my junior year, and that was my last class. It wasn't even called earth science. It wasn't even called physics. It was just called science. That's how bad I was at science in high school. But if I had a video like this, maybe I would have done better, maybe I wouldn't have. But if I were scientifically minded, this also illustrates a lot of aspects of the scientific method. It also shows you how you can use formulas and how you can put things together to come up with interesting conclusions. Yeah, it's totally silly. Who cares? But also, it's math, and it's science, and it's games. He is a great communicator, okay? A great communicator of science. Let's take movie theory as another example. The weakest of the three channels, I think. What I like, though, if we take as an example a recent video he did on Ratatouille, the Pixar movie Ratatouille, where he puts forth the idea that the villain Skinner is actually the hero and the hero Remy is actually the villain. This is the kind of thing that he does a lot, and it's an easy way to criticize the theory because they always just say, what if good but bad? Okay, but I want to go a little bit further than that. In France, in general, people are better educated than they are here in America. That's just a truth. Don't get mad, get a better education system. And part of the reason why is that they teach this way of learning called thesis, antithesis, synthesis, where they put forth an idea. In order to write a paper in France, the way you're trained is you write the idea, your thesis, you then present the opposite, and then you end with the synthesis of the two. In America, we're just based on the thesis. We're not really interested in counteracting our own arguments. We're not interested in leading the synthesis, which I think leads to a lot of polarized thinking. So by constantly taking, as an example, Remy is the bad guy, they don't really mean it. This is a thought experiment. They're doing what I do as an intellectual, what I do as somebody who writes academically published papers, okay? They are trying to see what's in the text. And they're trying to get different readings in the text than the readings that are the most evident. I don't want to go too far, but I do study a lot of Roland Barthes. And Roland Barthes is an interesting figure in this way of thinking about how do we read the text? How important is it the way the text is read versus how the text is written? So providing the idea of the bad guy being the good guy, I don't think that's the actual goal of the video. It's to create that antithesis so that the viewer can have a synthesis. What happens is you watch the movie, you take the first reading, Remy is good. You watch this, second reading, Remy is bad. And then in reality, what are you left with is, well, Remy appears to be a very good character, but perhaps some of his motivations are questionable, and perhaps there are some weird elitist overtones to the movie Ratatouille, which, even though it aspires to be this great inclusive movie, actually has this whole other downside to it where it seems like it's just for elitists. That's what's in that silly MatPat video. So yep, I get it, but what if good is bad? But that's the thing. It's taking you into the world. This is what academics do. Finally, food theory is probably the best. It's pretty new. What he's able to do is, that's basically his history channel. So I'd say the game theory channel is mostly the science and math. I'd say the movie theory is mostly sort of literature, humanities, literary analysis, and then food is more about history. It's taking Americans' relationship to junk food and breaking it down. A great example is the video on the flavor blue raspberry. I remember when I was a kid, the first time I saw the word blue raspberry on a candy, and I didn't understand what it meant because I thought raspberries were red. He takes you behind the entire history, what it has to do with the food scares, about how food is created, about how tastes are created. And yes, it's just a silly thing about Sour Patch Kids, but it's not. It's actually about the world that we live in and what our entire food structure and the way that we conceive of food and color and taste has been completely manipulated to extract more money from us. It's awesome. So, here's my theory. MatPat is a good YouTuber. And I don't mean that ironically, where I think he's actually bad. I think he's great. And it's fine. Some of his stuff is pretty silly. The voice gets really annoying. But we all need Pulp Fiction. We all need Entertainment Weekly. We all need Taco Bell to get us started. And that'll hopefully be something that'll help save us from the Mr. Beast future, which is very, very quickly coming after us. All right. Is that too goofy at the end? God damn it. I was about to stick the ending, but then my son started making noise upstairs. All right. But that's just a theory, a YouTuber theory. There's the camera.